What's up, everyone? All right, so today I'm going to take you for a ride in this 1972 Citroen DS21. Now, this is a pretty rare car to see on the road. Right now, there's only one for sale in the United States. It's in Hawaii. There are a few for sale in Europe, and it's not that this car wasn't produced in quantity, because it was a mass-produced car from the 60s into the 70s. They did three fairly distinct versions: the DS19, the DS21, and the DS23. And my son's pretty excited about it as well. He's gonna be really pumped to go on a ride in this car because it's so unusual. The DS21 has about 2100 cc and four-cylinder inline engine. The 19 is about a 1900 cc engine, and the 23 is a 2300 cc engine. So the DS23 Plus would be sort of the top of the model in terms of both engine and Plus being the luxury version. But this DS21, again, these are cars that you just don't come across every single day, and when you do, a lot of times they're not in great shape. And so for me, finding this one, I was happy to jump on it and to buy it, make it part of the Tire Kicker collection, which means for those that already are aware, these are available for rental for film and television, stuff like that, in addition to me using them. Now, at some point, I wouldn't be against maybe having a DS23, but beggars can't be choosers, and they just don't come up on the market all that often. So during the driving section of this episode, I'm going to talk about some of the details in terms of the way it handles. We're going to talk a lot about the hydraulic suspension system, which is so interesting on this car, especially for its era. But let's do a little walk around the outside, and then we'll get into some of the details on the interior and the driving, and we'll get into a little bit of the mechanical stuff before we get it on the road. All right, so let's jump in. All right, so we're going to do the walk around. We're going to start at the front. We're going to do one quick walk around, and then we're going to get into more details on the second walk around. So from the front, what you can see right away is an interesting stance. You'll notice that the front wheels are significantly wider apart than the rear wheels. So it has this kind of tapered look as it gets closer and narrower in the back. I want to say that was an aerodynamic decision, but from a design standpoint, it is also pretty interesting. We've got a very long hood, and I'll pop the hood and show you the engine underneath, and there's also a spare tire underneath. And then we have these really unique headlights, which just in their style is so distinctive to Citroen. There just isn't any other car that I've seen with those type of headlights. Now, some of the sort of subtle variations between the different models and the different years, on some vehicles, this right here is actually a blinker. In this case, it's just a sort of a chrome plate, and the blinker is right down here. And now in these headlights, there's something very unique, and it's that these lights right on the inside actually turn with the steering wheel. So I have a video that I did when it was dark, where you'll be able to actually see, as I turn the wheel, this light move. It's very interesting. It's really unique. So you'll be watching that now. I'll do that as an overlay. These are the high beam lights on the inside, and so it's only when you've got the high beams turned on. But it really is pretty cool driving this at night as you're going around sort of windy roads, seeing those bright lights guiding the road up ahead of you. It's not different from what I have on my Range Rover, which is a newer car, or what you might find on like a new BMW or a new Mercedes. But the fact that they had that in 1972 was pretty amazing technology. Now, one of the things I'll talk about when I'm driving the car is that I almost can feel in the steering wheel the mechanics of that connection between the steering wheel and the lights. So the wheel has a little bit of a different feel from a typical car, but aside from that, it does handle well. But we'll talk about that more in the driving section. So we'll keep walking around here. We'll just do sort of one quick loop around. Of course, we've got the blinkers up high. You can see the DS badging on the side, the nice leather interior. Just glass here. There's not an additional window frame. So if we roll down this window, you have that kind of nice just door like this, which I really like. For instance, this 1962 Porsche 356 has this frame. So you could roll this down, obviously the window, but then you still have the window frame. I like cars that have a frameless glass, although maybe the glass is more prone to break if you're not careful. I really like it. So now, of course, one of the things that is also really cool about these cars is the paint styling that they gave you the option to do a contrasting color, roof color and body color. The roof colors that I've seen are either black, white, or color matching to the car. And so as you know, I kind of am looking for, or have been looking for the right Citroen to add to the collection. It was always like, oh, it's a nice one, but I don't like the color combo of the roof and the body. I want the contrast. One of the other things you'll notice about different Citroens are different styles of the rear blinkers and also the rear taillights. And I think all of this, or some of it, is U.S. Department of Transportation requirements that did change in the 70s. And it had a profound impact on the design of headlights and taillights on European cars that were imported into the States. So one of the things that I will tell you, which is just amazing on this one, of course, is the suspension. So a hydraulic suspension, and this right here is the lowest setting. So this is how it sits when it's parked. And if we zoom in here, you'll actually see that off the bottom of the car, and this might be a little bit hard to see. I don't know if this is really a good angle, but we probably have about 2 inches of clearance on from the exhaust pipe. The exhaust pipe is the lowest piece of equipment on the car. So this is very, very low. Now, if I open the door, you leave it on, you let it go to the floor when you're not driving the car, but then when you're driving it, you can change the suspension height right down here. There's this lever, and so it's right here. So this is actually the lowest setting right down there. And when you start the car and it warms up, in my experience, and this might not be the way it's supposed to work, but it usually pops itself right up here. So this is the typical driving suspension that's the most comfortable, right there in the middle. But then you can increase the ride height to either of these heights or go all the way up to there, which is the suspension really jacked up. So I'm going to show you a clip of the suspension at the different heights, or maybe you've already been watching it because I am overlaying it as I'm talking about this here. But this is just remarkable. Again, my Range Rover has this, but it's a newer car. So to have this on a car from 1972 is really remarkable. While we're here, I will make note driving of this sort of these unusual pedals. This is the emergency brake here. We've got the regular brake here. We've got the clutch here. This bulb is the actual brake. So this is a bulb. It's and this pushes hydraulic fluid. So it's not a standard brake pedal. It's a little bulb that you push on. And it's very, very precise. It's actually a little bit probably more precise than any brake I've ever used. And then we've got this very skinny gas pedal right here. So it's a very interesting kind of placement here. I mean, typical placement, but just interesting style with all three being totally different. Skinny gas pedal, a funny little brake bulb, a typical clutch pedal, and then your emergency brake is fairly typical as well. So when you push the emergency brake in like that, you can release it with this lever right here, and that just pops it right up. So down in this area, we've got a lot going on. We've got our we've got the control rod mechanism here for the hydraulic suspension. We have our emergency brake release, which is good. We want to have that. And then right here, we have the release for the hood. Well, but that's just the release for the left side. Now we've got to go over to the right side and release again. So let's walk around here and we'll release on the right side. And then we can go ahead and open the hood. All right, so on the right side right there. And this is all, I am sitting in the car right now. And when I talk, we'll look under the engine, under the hood, but I'm gonna keep coming back to the fact that these are the most comfortable seats I have ever sat in. It is remarkably comfortable. It really is very impressive. The floor is carpeted. It's a little dirty with some pine needles that came in. But in the back seat, so I'll just hop in the back seat for 1 second. This, I could easily sleep right here. This is so comfortable. It's so soft. And right down here, look at this. So I'm gonna put my foot on it. I don't know if you can see, but this is actually, it's like 2 inches of foam. So it's really soft. It feels like just a big kind of bed, pillow. It's luxury. It really is. It's so remarkably comfortable. And then with the the hydraulic suspension, it creates a very smooth ride, bordering on a little floaty, bouncy, which I'll talk about when I'm driving, which I don't know that it wouldn't make me car sick if I was sitting in the back here for a while, but I'm also more prone to getting car sick, so I'm not a good gauge on that. These really big, solid, bulky metal door handles, I love it. And these, you can see the patina on this. This is something that, it takes a long time to develop that level of patina. So that's really cool. All right, so now we're gonna open the hood. So this huge hood here, we've got one release right here, right under there. Ugh, there we go. And now you see what we're working with here. So this is fairly unusual. I don't know, I haven't seen a spare tire in this position before. But one of the things that's kind of cool about this car, it's obviously a front-mounted engine, but it also is front-wheel drive. And the engine is positioned a little further back, so the weight balance on the car is really not bad. And if I was going to take it for a drive in the snow, I don't know. I mean, if I popped some snow tires on it or threw some chains on, I think it would actually do pretty well. All right, so I just rested this right here. This comes down right into this little section right here where we've got that connection. So we have our emergency, or our spare tire here, and then underneath we've got some extra hydraulic fluid. Now this is important, this is the green fluid. These cars, some of them had red fluid, and you can't fill a red fluid car with green fluid, and you can't fill a green fluid car with red fluid. You've got to do it the right way. And so this right here is where the hydraulic fluid, this is the canister for that. And so this is a car that unfortunately, because it was very technically advanced for its age or for its period, it's also mechanically more prone for failure and more difficult to maintain. And because these were very popular, they were driven as daily commuters. And the result is that many of them just ended up going to the scrapyard. The ones that were automatic transmissions had problems with the transmission. Those problems resulted in the cars just getting scrapped rather than repairing. The ones with the manual transmissions are the ones more likely to have survived. But again, with the hydraulic fluid and the hydraulic suspension system, there would have been points where cars, due to rust and other things, it just no longer made sense to invest in the repairs to keep them on the road. So although they were not an uncommon car in Europe in the 60s and 70s, to see them still on the road today is, as it turns out, fairly rare, just simply because most of them did not survive. And so the few that have been and that have been restored and are in good condition are fairly popular and in the collector's market. A car like this right now in the United States is anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 US dollars, although the ones that were made as a cabriolet, so a convertible, those ones are in excess of $200,000. They are very rare and really popular. There's only one for sale right now, and that one estimate at auction is going to be over $200,000. So, but it's an automatic, so I wouldn't, even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be interested in that particular one. So again, we've got a nice look under the hood, and one of the challenges with this car will be the fact that you're going to need, and I'm going to use my head as a hood holder here for a second. So you would need a mechanic that is comfortable with working on this type of car, because unfortunately a mechanic that's used to working on American cars and even other typical European cars may not be comfortable with some of the complexity of this car. So it's not one that I'm going to put probably a lot of miles on, because the more miles you put on, the more likelihood you have that it's going to need some some type of more significant mechanical repair. But it's in really great shape right now, so driving it a little bit on Saturday and Sunday is going to be nice. I would say if you were looking for just one collectible car, this one might not be it, just because of reliability issues. But it is incredibly comfortable. It's really nice to drive around in. And just like the 1961 Volkswagen bus, anytime I'm driving around, people are waving, they're looking at, they're like, what the heck is that thing? Because it's a unique car. And that makes the experience of driving it fun, because it can be a social event, because you have people that come up and want to talk to you about what the heck you're driving. And that's one of the things that I really like about the Tire Kicker community, is being able to share these cars with other folks out there, like you right now watching this video. So I'm going to close up the hood, and let's jump on the inside and talk a little bit about some of the interior stuff before I do the cold start, and then we get it on the road. Oh, before we jump in, we've got the badging on the back, DS21, and then the the trademark Citroen logo, which is pretty cool. And for what it's worth, there is a trunk here. It's not the biggest trunk, but you could put a couple suitcases back there without a problem, so it's not bad. So before we take it for a drive, I'm sitting here in the captain's chair, captain's seat, and this is luxury right here. The driving position is upright. You can't see all the way over the hood because of the way it kind of tapers down, so maybe parking could be a little tricky in some spots. But it really is just an awesome position, and of course, I think this color combination is fantastic. I really like it. So why don't we go ahead and get it out on the road. I'll do the cold start, and then once I'm driving, I'll talk a little bit more about some of the things going on the interior here with the gauges and things like that. And I'll break down for you the transmission and how it shifts and everything else. So the one last thing I'll give you is the sound of the horn. So listen to this. Yeah, it's unusual. So, as you see someone go by, give a little honk honk. All right, so let's do the cold start. All right, so let's get a cold start before we get this on the road. So I've got my keychain here, kind of a unusual shaped little key. All right, guys, let's do a cold start. We're gonna get this on the road. All right, so let's see. Now, this is not the type of car that I don't think anyone's gonna be clicking just on a cold start of a 1972 Citroen DS21, but for those that are already on the ride, let's see what it sounds like. All right, so let's see, I'm in neutral here. All right, yep, I'm in neutral. I'm gonna tap the gas pedal twice. 1, 2. And there we go. Now, it has a really deep sound. It sounds almost like a Saab or a Volvo. The microphone in the back is going to pick up some of the noise of the hydraulic moving us up and down, but it's got a really deep sound, much deeper than, definitely very different than the Porsche 356 or the 911s. It is a 4-cylinder. This is the DS21, so 2100 cc roughly. I think around 125 horsepower. But yeah, it's got a nice, really nice sound. All right, so now that we've got it idling, and I do have this that I can pull out here to let it idle higher, or I can push this back in. So we'll push that back in, and let's get out of the driveway first, and then we'll get on the road, and you'll get a little sense of what it's like to cruise in this car. What's up, everyone? All right, well, if you made it to the end of this video, you must also be a tire kicker just like me. So hit that subscribe button and come over to tirekickers.com to check out some articles that I've written about some of my favorite cars, including that 23 window 1961 VW bus.